Generally, when we discuss transfer in motor learning or sports practices, we're speaking about positive transfer. So that is whatever it is that we practice during the practice session or during the week transfers to improve performance during the game. So there's a positive transfer. The practice drill or the practice itself improves performance. That's the goal. That we really have when we practice is whatever we're doing at practice, we want it to improve performance in the game. And the term that we use to describe that in motor learning is transfer. So, what we do has an effect or a positive effect on the ultimate performance in the game. So the practice transfers from one environment, that is the practice environment, to a different environment, which is the game environment. But there's also negative transfer. And so today, somebody posted a video on YouTube and then subsequently on Twitter that I saw. And it's kind of one of the things that I used to, just kind of think that it just led to no transfer. But the more I look at it and the more I watch players play, I think drills of this nature actually contribute to negative transfer. So negative transfer is when whatever you do in practice actually leads to a decreased performance or a worse performance in a game or in that transfer environment. So again, in a sports context, we're generally talking from practice to games when we're talking about transfer. So the drill is, your typical 2-on-0, to work on passing in a pick and roll situation. So offensive player comes up, sets a screen for the ball handler dribbles, picks up the ball, passes to the roller, rolling to the basket for a layup. Drills of this nature, these on-zero drills, are something that I would call a fake fundamental. They look great. I've seen posts on Twitter before praising high-level, world-famous coaches for doing these 2-on-0 drills and how great it was, to teach skills and such things of this nature. But the transfer is minimal and potentially negative, and here's why. So when players play, one of the biggest mistakes that I see when I work with players and when I watch youth, high school, college, even some NBA games, the biggest mistake that I see in pick and roll situations is ball handlers that pick up the dribble too quickly. That is, they dribble off and immediately when they see the screener's defender hedge or the screener's defender switch or however the defense is going to play that, but if they see somebody there, they tend to pick up the basketball. And this becomes a problem because the player hasn't created space between the screener and the ball handler. And so without space between the two of them, as soon as the ball handler picks up the ball, it's easy for the defense to switch back. So the ball handler's defender stays with the ball handler, screener's defender stays with the screener, ball handler no longer has a dribble, so the play is essentially stopped. There's no advantage gained, by forcing a switch or something of that nature, and now the ball handler can't go anywhere, so we're going to have somebody else come up and get open, probably further from the basket, to be able to complete this pass because the ball is dead. And so one thing that I believe contributes to the ball handler picking up the ball in this situation is one, we spend a lot of time doing 2-on-0 drills, so the offensive player may be unaccustomed to that type of defense, whether it's a hard hedge, a soft hedge, a switch, and so as soon as that defensive player steps up, the player picks up the ball to protect it just because of an unfamiliarity with a defensive player in that position. The second thing, and why I think these types of drills may have some negative transfer, is in the drill situation, the player dribbles, they go to a specific spot on the court, they pick up the ball, and they make a specific pass. And because there's no defense, there's nothing to read in that situation. They're not, aware of, the defenders or the different constraints that may affect the performance of that skill. They are simply told by a coach, dribble off the screen, pick up the ball, make this type of pass. Because the focus is really a passing drill, not a pick and roll drill. And even at that, it's a limited passing drill because there's no defense there. And passing in a game is going to be dependent on where the defense is, how the defense plays it. Is it a bigger defensive player, smaller defensive player, long arms, short arms? All of these things are going to contribute into determining what's the correct pass to make. So if the offensive player simply works on a pocket pass, as was in this drill, which is a bounce pass, quick bounce pass coming off the screen, it may work sometimes. If the defense lines up just in a perfect situation that allows for a pocket pass, it may work. But it's not going to work all the time. And building the habit of taking that one dribble, picking up the ball to make a pass is developing a bad habit, in my opinion. And it's going to lead to negative transfer into the games because players are going to get in the habit of picking up the ball as soon as they come off the screen to make this pass that may or may not be available and may or may not be the best pass to make. So, in a game situation, what if a third defensive player has rotated over and already committed to stopping that two-man game, on one side of the court? Well, the open player isn't going to be the player rolling to the basket. The open player is going to be to the opposite side of the court where you have a 3-on-2 advantage. So why do we want to pick up the ball to make a pocket pass when we're playing 2-on-3 on the strong side when we have a 3-on-2 advantage on the weak side? Similarly, what if I'm passing to a player who doesn't have great hands and I'm making the quick pass where they have to catch the ball, dribble, and maybe make a second decision whether they're going to finish or whether they're going to pass, etc. So I think we're spoiled in the NBA right now. I mean, in the Warriors Trailblazers series, you see two players who've been fantastic playing as big men, post players that are able to make short rolls. That is, let's say on a high on-ball screen, Draymond Green and Miles Plumlee, they're catching the ball high. So instead of rolling to the basket, they're rolling to the open space, which tends to be kind of between the top of the key and the free throw line, and they catch the ball there. And instead of it being dead because you've got a post player, with the ball 15, 18 feet from the basket, these players are then attacking. And so if two players go with a ball handler, Lillard or Curry, when they make that pass to Green or Plumlee, now you have a 4-on-3 situation. And in years past, teams haven't been threatened by this as much because the players receiving that pass have been limited. You haven't in previous years, you haven't expected big post players to make great decisions or to be able to handle the ball. But now, in the way that the game has evolved, you see players like Green and Plumlee, and Blake Griffin's great at this as well. And it's hard to double team great ball handlers like a Paul Lillard or Curry because they make the pass, and it's almost like that player setting the screen as a secondary ball handler. And so now they're making a move and creating a 4-on-3 situation. So that same idea doesn't always hold true when we're talking about youth basketball, or high school basketball, or even college basketball. Not every player who sets that screen, even in the NBA, that player that sets the screen isn't going to be as skilled with the ball in their hands 18 feet from the basket as a Green or a Plumlee or Blake Griffin or somebody like that. So maybe in some situations you need to take another dribble to let that roller get closer to the basket so that you can maybe put up a lob so that somebody like DeAndre Jordan or Dwight Howard, Hassan Whiteside, a player like this, all they have to do is catch and finish. Whereas if you give them the ball 18 feet from the basket, maybe they're not as successful. But you let them roll, get a little bit closer to the basket instead of throwing that immediate pocket pass, and now they're devastating finishers and they can take advantage of that situation. So different players, and that's at the NBA level, where, we're talking about the best players and best athletes in the world. Take that down to a youth, high school, college level, and the disparity between players is going to be even greater. So, teaching players to come off and immediately throw this pass may not be putting that roller in a good position to succeed. But if it's the habit that the guard has developed because of these 2-on-0 drills, then it's going to happen, and then we make a mistake, and then the coach gets mad at either the ball handler for making that pass or the post player for not being able to catch the pass and make a good decision or whatever the case may be. But in reality, rather than being upset at the players for making a mistake, the mistake is the practice, because we're not practicing situations as they are in the game. And consequently, these drills are creating the negative transfer. So again, two ideas to think about. One, drills of this nature, the 2-on-0, the on-0 drills, they're not teaching decision making. And to me, they're fake fundamentals. They're not teaching what's going to happen in the game. They look good in practice. Players are very successful, but they don't practice what happens in a game. And so what that leads to then is negative transfer. So again, what we want out of practice is what we practice to transfer to better performance in a game. Okay, so that's positive transfer. But what ends up happening is these drills lead to no transfer, so there's no improvement in performance, and potentially it leads to negative transfer, which is when the players actually get worse because of the drill, because they've built this habit of picking up the ball early to make a pass that either isn't available, easily defended in some situations, doesn't account for the defense, or maybe puts the pass receiver in a poor position just because it's where the guard has become accustomed to making the pass and isn't accounting for the individual constraints of the player to whom they're throwing the ball. So again, we need to do a little bit better job with how we're developing these drills and think about, one, how can we create the positive transfer, not the negative transfer, and how can we get rid of some of these fake fundamentals to develop drills that are going to really improve performance and really enhance the skills of players as they move from practice to games.